Hi everyone, Dr. Jacqueline Normandy here with the Modern Conducting Academy, and in today's video we're going to talk about marking your score. So this is the key to walking into any rehearsal or performance feeling absolutely confident, so you can connect with the music, with the people in front of you, with the audience, and you can just relax and be your best self. Now, I don't know about you, but I've walked into rehearsal sometimes, when I taught high school and I have 5 choirs and a community chorus and a church choir, and I'm like, I just don't have time to prepare all the time, even though I try. But I'd walk into a rehearsal and there's lots of mixed meter, and I'd go going around, and then I'd skip a meter and I'd miss a meter change, and I have to do like the little conductor circle, where am I, and back. And then you get back in and you're like, whew, all right, I hope no one noticed, even though I know everyone noticed. Or if you've had this happen, and I've totally had this happen, where you have like a bunch of people in front of you, orchestra or something, and there's this huge major work score, and you're preparing it, and you miss this tiny little, this little instructional, and you don't highlight it, and you don't translate it. So it can be some random terminology that you've never heard, like in the Brahms Requiem, there's etwas bewegter, and that means, I don't know about you, but my German is not that great that I have that off the top of my head. That means somewhat more slowly. And so you don't want to get into a rehearsal and someone says, excuse me, Dr. Normandy, what does that mean? And you're like, I don't know. And then you feel embarrassed and you're like, I didn't prepare enough, and then you just feel bad. So we want to avoid those type of situations through our score preparation. So this is key. There's lots of ways to prepare, and we're going to go over some of those key ways today. So the first is you always want to write the big form. You want to analyze it. Now, if it's a huge, gigantic work, you can just Google it. You're like, what's the form of this movement? And there are so many resources out there. Even if you're not great at form and harmonic analysis, there are great things out there. But at least mark the main section. So the A section, B section, when the A section returns, what's the C, all the things. And then draw using a yellow highlighter or colored pencil, but we want to mark that so we know visually we're coming to a new section. Also, the key centers, and if there's lots of accidentals, what are they doing? Are they showing us that we're transitioning into a new key? Are we just, is it a couple of different, what's the function of those chords? Are they interesting chords that somebody might ask us about, and we want to be able to say, yes, this is an augmented 6 chord. We don't want to be caught off guard. Anything that sticks out to us that we might be asked a question, we want to prepare for that question and then have the answer ready. And then again, mark it in the score, because when you have working on 30 pieces and 5 ensembles, you don't always have time to memorize what that means and recall it right off the bat. So mark it. You took the time to analyze it, mark it in the score. Then also, let's see, colors. So colors, different conductors have opinions on color marking in their score. So whatever your opinion is, that's totally fine. Do what works best for you. And there's different philosophies on what colors to use. Here's one example. Do whatever you like, then works best for you. So in general, red is used to mark mezzo forte and louder dynamics. So you can highlight it, you can circle it with, I like to use colored pencils. And a nice way to show the dynamic, let's say there's a big crescendo, if there is a crescendo, you can mark over the crescendo, or mark the mezzo forte, forte, and fortissimo in different ways. So a way to do it is you mark the mezzo forte in a small circle, light circle. Forte, you maybe do a double circle, and then fortissimo, you circle it and maybe even color it in. So on the page, you see not only is it red, signifying it's loud, but you see that it's also crescendoing. So the goal of all this score marking is to look down and in an instant see a snapshot of what we're supposed to do dynamically, things coming up, meter changes, so you don't have to be buried in the score. Nothing creates a bigger gap between us and our ensembles than staring at this score all the time. So we want to be connected. Then the same thing with piano dynamics. So using blue for mezzo piano and softer. Same thing. 1 circle for mezzo piano, 2 circles or a darker circle for piano, and then circle with maybe a colored in for pianissimo or easy-issimo. So again, we see that visual representation of it getting softer. Green. I like to use green for cues. So If I'm doing a big orchestral score and it's 40 stabs deep, sometimes I don't know who that is in the middle of the score. I'm like, oboe 2, I didn't know that, so I want to make sure that I mark it so I see who's coming up. And then I also, if some scores don't have the who's playing marked on the side, so I go through every single page and I write all the instrumentation on every single page, so I'm not 30 pages into the work and I go, what is this again? I don't have to think, I just look, it's there. Also, if I'm unfamiliar with that cue, I will actually write trumpet 2, and I'll put it right next to the green. I'll write it in pencil, and I know as I look down, I'm like, okay, trumpet 2 cue coming up, and boom, done. I don't have to worry about memorizing everything. It's great to memorize, and if you can, that's awesome. But sometimes you don't have the time to memorize, or you're just not comfortable with it, so it's okay. That's why score marking is so important. Yellow, I talked about using section dividers. You can do the big section. You can even do phrase marking. Is it a 4-bar phrase? Is it an 8-bar phrase? And just do little markings there. So that way we can pace our dynamics too. Okay, it's an 8-bar phrase. Where's the apex? Where's the high point of that phrase? And you can really just see, and then you can shape the inner dynamics better. Because if we don't know how long the phrases are, we can't figure out where that cadential point is and how to move to it in an interesting fashion. Things to consider with our score prep. And then some people like to do orange for meter changes. I know if I'm doing lots of mixed meter, Stravinsky, I do mixed meter, I use the orange to mark when it changes. Definitely don't want to miss that. And then some people like to do thematic material in either pink or purple highlighter. So here's the main theme, here's the counter subject. Again, you can mark it as much as you can and then maybe buy a new score once you've learned it and do less. So don't worry about overmarking your score. Don't mark everything, but pick the main things. But we don't want to not mark something out of pride. If you don't mark something and you're like, oh, I missed it, and it was because it wasn't marked, then it's on us. So mark your score so that you can feel as wonderful and prepared as possible in any ensemble situation. See you in the next video.